What's up, y'all? Welcome to Truth's Podcast. Today I want to talk about hustle culture, creating and cultivating narcissists in this society, or just embodying or embedding narcissistic traits into today's youth or into today's people. And I think it's important to understand that because a lot of the times when it comes to the hustle culture, it's more so telling you to push your emotions aside and push everything that you believe in or everything that you are aside just to get to the money or just to get to a dollar or whatever the case may be. And I think it's important to understand that because it's important in this lifetime to have money and to be able to provide for yourself and to be able to provide for the people or be able to give to the people that you care about. But I think it's important to understand when it comes to money, it should come from a space of it mirroring back to you the value that you already have, or it should be something that you are attracting into your life because of who you are. Not just not because you're chasing it or you're trying to push your emotions aside to get to it or whatever the case may be. I think it's important to understand that your emotions are important and your mental and emotional state is important, because I think it's important to understand that health is wealth. And when it comes to health, that doesn't just mean your physical body. It means your mental and emotional state of being as well. And if you create this hustle culture for yourself and you just keep moving, you're going to end up in a space where you're neglecting your emotional health or your mental health, which at some point is going to take effect on your physical body. And I think that's important to understand because for me, for example, I grew up in environments where I grew up in environments where people around me would tell me just keep going and not feel your emotions, or emotions are weak, or being vulnerable is weak, or whatever the case may be. And I think that if I didn't take my healing into my own hands and really figure myself out and start to understand myself, and if I wasn't set down in life when it comes to having to face my trauma, then I would have continued on the journey of being a very emotional person, allowing my emotions to control every move I make, allowing fear to control every move I made. And that's why I think that it's important to understand that sometimes when you're set down in life, it could be a blessing in disguise if you look at it in the right way. And if you're able to start to look within yourself instead of look outside of yourself and allow fear to control you, or allow the fear of poverty or lack or whatever the case may be. Because I think it's important to understand also that just because you're a part of the hustle culture doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to be prosperous, or doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to catch up to the money or whatever the case may be. And if you sit back and observe, you're doing more chasing than attracting. You're doing more chasing than actually getting to any money that can actually move you out of the space of fear or lack or whatever you're chasing it for. But I think it's important to understand that the more you focus on wealth is health, the more you focus on your health is the more you will be able to attract more money. The more you focus on your mental stability and your emotional stability is the more you'll be able to be in spaces and places where you're able to understand the next steps on how to get to the money or how to attract more money. And I think it's important to understand that patience is key also, and also putting your best foot forward in cases where, and that's why I think it's important to understand how to sit down sometimes and really be there for yourself and analyze your emotions and ask yourself the hard questions in order to heal what you need to heal and release what you need to release it, and release whatever baggage or blockages you need to release in order to really step into your true purpose and really step into what can make you money from a space of being, or from a space of when you stepping out in conviction and stepping out with a intention set, and not just letting people or judgments or life throw you any which way, but understanding what you are doing, and being able to stand in that in conviction. So I think it's important, when you're set down in life, to actually sit down and observe where you are going wrong, or where you are not listening to God or the universe or whatever you believe in, or not listening to your true heart's desire, and understanding how to attract what you actually deserve, and understanding how to move and release those blockages of whatever makes you feel like you don't deserve the money, or you don't deserve the wealth, or whatever you desire in life that's making you chase it instead of attract it, or making you feel like you have to hustle for it in a space of not being. Because a lot of the times I think we look at people with a lot of money and we're like, oh, they're hustling and they're doing this. But I think it's important to understand that most people that have a lot of money that's doing it the right way hustle with intention. They're doing it from a space of just being. It doesn't feel like hustle to them. It just feels like them being them, and them attracting opportunities from their value, attracting opportunities from them speaking their truth, or being in their truth, or being authentic to themselves. And I think it's important to really pay attention to the people that are at peace with money, are happy with their lifestyle, and not pay attention to the people that are just doing things because of a dollar. Because if you just move off of money at some point, and you just have your value wrapped up in money instead of your value wrapped up in what you have already within you, at some point, if you lose that money, or if you lose the ability to hustle, then you will crash. Because I think it's important to understand that your value is so much more than money. Your value is so much more than what you have on the outside. Your value is so much more than a car or a house or money or material possessions. And I think that's important to understand. What true abundance is abundance in love, abundance in self-love for yourself as well. Without everything around you, how much love do you have for yourself, and how much love do you feel like you deserve if you had nothing? And I think that's important to understand, because you are not what's around you. What's around you is just accessories to what you have within you. And I think that's important to understand. But I think in today's society, with the hustle culture, it cultivates narcissism. It cultivates you shutting down and becoming a robot. Are you shutting down and caring too much about what the next person thinks? Are you shutting down and caring too much about what's outside of you instead of what's inside of you? What your heart looks like, what your mind looks like. Is it racing? Can you get a peace of mind? Can you sit in quiet and be at peace in that quiet? And if you can, I think it's important to take a step back and realize that when you sit down by yourself, can you breathe? Can you have a peace and quiet within your mind? And I think that's important to understand. That's the real wealth, to be able to sit by yourself and be at peace, or be at peace in life, no matter what is going on in your life. And I think that's the real wealth of freedom, is the real wealth. And I think that's important to understand, that a lot of people, even myself at one point in time, lost track of, or loses track of, understanding that freedom is the true wealth. Being able to be free to be yourself. And I think in today's society, it makes you feel like you have to keep going and keep going, and you have people around you also that, tells you to keep going, even though God is telling you to sit down, or even though your body is screaming to you to sit down, or even though you're out of whack and everything is triggering you, or whatever the case may be. And I think that a lot of people don't want to sit down because they're afraid to face their emotions, and they're afraid that if they slow down, then they'll never be able to get back up. But I think it's important to understand, if you don't slow down, that you in some way will be forced to sit down to deal with what needs to be dealt with. Or at some point in your life, you'll look back and realize that you were hustling for nothing. You will still not have enough, because real true abundance and wealth is not about how much you have on the outside, but how much you have within you, how much you are willing to release within you, or are willing to, how much health you're willing to digest, and how much chaos and exhaustion, or whatever the case may be, that you're willing to release. Because the more and more you push your emotions to the side, or you push your mental health to the side, is the more that it will catch up to you at some point, and you will have to sit down anyways to tend to that. So I think it's important to understand that sometimes it's okay to slow down, to tend to that and understand it, and really connect to it, and understand that being vulnerable with yourself or the people that you care about is not weak. It is a strength that can put you in a position to really see yourself, and by seeing yourself, you can see how you can add more value into the world, and how you can get more of, how you can attract more value outside of yourself. And I think that's important to understand, to genuinely see your worth, and not wrap your worth around what is going on outside of you, but just allow whatever is going on outside of you to catch up to you and who you actually are. Because if you have real value within you, at some point on the outside, that will mirror back to you. And if you don't have real value on the inside of you, and real self-worth wrapped up in who you truly are, in the love that you nurture within yourself, then that will also at some point shine on the outside of you, in a space where, if you don't pay attention to your inner world and your inner dialogue, and really understand yourself, at some point you're going to look up and realize that all you have is money, and all you have is material things, instead of true wealth and true abundance that should be stored within you. And I think that's important to understand. And also understanding, that at some point you'll look around and realize that the people around you don't really see you for you, and don't really love you for you, or don't really want to be around you. And I think that's important to understand. Being authentic to yourself, and truly understanding yourself, and truly nurturing your own emotions will protect you in many ways, will protect you from the wrong opportunity, will protect you from just accepting anything and just settling for anything, and just in one day looking up and realizing how much time you really have wasted. Instead of slowing down, I think it's important to slow down and process your inner dialogue, and the love that you are giving yourself or not giving yourself, in order to truly not waste the so-called time that you don't want to slow down for in the first place. Because I think it's important to understand, when it comes to the hustle culture, forcing anything is at some point going to meet friction. So if you're trying to force money to be in your life, and you're gripping onto it and you're holding on to it, at some point, just like you, if somebody was trying to control you and forcing you to do anything, and you feel into that, that would make you want to run away. That would make you feel uncomfortable. So if you're doing that to money, because money is an energy, money is a currency. So if you're doing that with money, at some point you are going to continue chasing it instead of just allowing it to be in your life, by whether that be you overspending or I think it's important to understand. I'm reading a book right now that's called Make Money Easy, and it talks about healing the relationship within yourself around money. And it talks about the story you tell yourself and where you got that story from that makes you have different connections with money. And it talks about avoiding attachment, and it talks about anxious. It has anxious attachment, and then it has secure attachment, and it talks about how that can be, a relationship thing, but it also can be your relationship with money. So being in a hustle culture, most of the time, obviously, you either have anxious attachment or you have avoidant attachment, where you feel like you don't deserve money in both ways. And it puts you in a position where, when it comes to being anxiously attached to something, you hold on to it, and you're not willing to let go of it. You're not willing to have that healthy give and take energy with money, to the point where you're holding on too tight to where that's all you have, or being avoidantly attached to money and having money, but as soon as you get the money, you want to spend it because you don't feel like you're worthy of it, or you are afraid that you're going to lose it. But instead of losing it, you think that you're taking some type of power back by spending it on what you think you want or what you think you deserve, or whatever the case may be. And I think that has a lot to do with, the hustle culture around money, or just having that energy within you, period. Feeling like you have to do or struggle for money, or whatever the case may be, when there's people. And it's also the thing of people, saying that nothing is free in this world, when no, nothing is free in this world. But also understanding that some people do energy exchanges for money. As far as, you have people that you don't necessarily have to be anything but yourself in order to get money. You just have to understand that you are worthy of it within your energy. And I think, that's something that, Make Money Easy expresses as well. But also just understanding the story that you tell yourself and where you got that story from. And in reality, all you have to be is yourself. All you have to be is authentically yourself. And all you have to do is release lack mentalities and misunderstandings that you have with yourself, in order to understand how to position yourself where money is, or how to connect to more people that have better connections that can put you in spaces that can make you more money. Or understanding how to take care of yourself, not only physically but emotionally and mentally, to where when you do get the money, you know how to move with the money. Or when you do get that opportunity to make more money, you understand how to be balanced in order to give and receive energetically, or with money flow, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's something that I'm learning right now, and that I wanted to express to other people. And also understanding, that your mental and emotional state is important. So the hustle culture it's important not to aimlessly hustle, and truly understand what you are putting your intentions towards when you are trying to build wealth for yourself. Truly intentionally making moves, and not just doing things just to do it, not just doing things just to make money, but do it from a space of you actually wanting to do it. Because I think it's important to understand when it comes to purpose, when it comes to you intentionally trying to make money or intentionally making money, it comes from a space of which I think people in society kind of gets misconstrued, especially if you've grown up in spaces of poverty or lack mentalities and lack money, and you've lacked money a lot in your life or whatever the case may be. It's like do anything to get a dollar. You see somebody else is successful in this, so you go after that because you want that same success, instead of seeing that they are authentically being them, and that is how they're cultivating more money into their life, instead of seeing, oh, well, let me see what is valuable within myself that I can offer the world. I think that's more important to understand than just to see that somebody else is making money off of something and then trying to do what they're doing. Genuinely ask yourself what value you have within yourself that you can express outside of yourself that can make you more money, because that will energetically align you to the opportunities that you can hustle, but it won't feel like hustling. It will just feel like you just doing you, and that is just making money. And I think that's important. I think that's important to understand. When you truly love what you're doing, like the people that's making, you see YouTubers, or you see clothing brand owners, or you see people that, or you see doctors, or you see nurses, or you see people that are genuinely loving what they are doing, they exude a different energy. For example, if you get hurt and you go into the hospital and you meet a nurse that is taking care of you, you can tell the difference between a nurse that is doing it for the money and a nurse that is doing it because they genuinely want to do it. And you can tell the difference in energy levels of abundance as well. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about their light, their aura, their essence. You can tell the difference. And I think it's important to understand which one you would want to be. And if you see that you want to be somebody that is actually happy and also making money, then that is the person that you should look up to and that you should study. And then take that information and study yourself and become a student to yourself and understand what value you store within you, and give that to the world, and let that be what you become prosperous in. That way, when you walk out into the world, people automatically say, I wonder what they're selling, or I wonder what they do for a living, or whatever they are getting from you is it's a high vibrational energy to where when they buy it or when they are in your presence, they want to come back, or they want to give you more abundance, or they want to reference somebody else to come to you, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's where the wealth is, and that's where the true value is, when you're authentically yourself, so that way you attract more authentic energy and more authentic wealth and abundance. Because when you don't genuinely love what you're doing, or being authentic to yourself in what you're doing, at some point everything is going to crumble, because what you do has to start from a strong foundation. If you believe in God, or you believe in the universe, or whatever the case may be, you are their vessel. So they don't want you to be in fear. They don't want you to be unauthentic to yourself. They don't want you to be full of anxiety or depression. They want you to be true to yourself and honor their vessel. So if you're not doing that, they have to sit you on your ass, or they have to sit you down for you to really understand your true essence and your true purpose, and for you to really see your own light. And I think that's important to understand. And they might not sit you down as far as financially. They might sit you down in health. They might sit you down and you starting to go through deep depression and having to take multiple pills a day just to get your mind right. But it's important to understand to do that for yourself before they have to do it for you. Do that for yourself before life flips on your head. And if it does, and when it does flip you on your head, understand how to sit in that and heal, so that your next step can be in conviction, so that your next step can be in intention. And I think that's important to understand. But yeah, I think it's important to understand in today's society to know yourself, love yourself, and know when to walk away and when to choose yourself, and also know when to stand in your power and stand in your authority, in your essence, in your authenticity. And I think that's important to understand. But especially today, in today's time where it's hustle culture and it's being everything somebody else wants you to be in order to make a dollar, I think it's important to be a student of yourself and a student to life in order to be, and a student to money as well, in order to be truly balanced in this world, because you need money to live in this world, but you also need yourself first and foremost. And I think that's important to understand. Health is wealth, and health doesn't just mean your physical. Health means mental, emotional, and physical. And I think that's important to understand. But yeah, if you like this podcast episode, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will be posting every Wednesday, so make sure that y'all stay tuned for that. This is TRU's podcast. Thank you for watching.